So I may be a little late on this, but consider the time in between to be a little bit of a mourning period as we go over the live-action Fairly Oddparents reboot idea. So I've heard about this for a while, but given my past with the show, I figured I might as well throw my hat in for this discussion. So we go on to learn through a few posts, I'll be using one from discussingfilm.net, that there is not only a live-action Fairly Oddparents reboot in the works, but a live-action Fairly Oddparents reboot that will be starting filming in June, set to come out around 2022. Now it gets better because Butch Hartman will be the executive producer alongside Fred Seibert, the man behind Frederator, which was a key component in getting Fairly Oddparents to be where it's at today, as both of these men go way back. Actually back to cartoon, ironically enough, given the other piece of news that I haven't talked about on this channel. And this falls in line with Nickelodeon and Butch Hartman having a very good working relationship, which if you think about it, goes well over 20 years of them working together. Everything from Oh Yeah Cartoon's rendition of Fairly Oddparents to the dominance of Fairly Oddparents when it initially started out pre-hiatus, and you would go on to have, Danny Phantom, then you have Tough Puppy, and Bunsen is a Beast to round out the latter two as far as contributions on Nick.
Yay! A Beast welcome party! I brought cupcakes!
And he's been keeping himself busy in other areas as well, but I'm not going to go over that in this video. There's plenty of videos going over that in detail. However, I was under the impression that Nickelodeon didn't want to go in a new direction, but given that they're seemingly taking a lot of stuff from before to refresh their audience now, it actually doesn't surprise me that they want to take this show and do something with it. It also doesn't surprise me that they want to take a very popular name brand show and throw the live action stamp on it. The article states, Nickelodeon veteran Christopher J. Nowak has been hired as a showrunner for the reboot. His credits include writing and producing various episodes of Victorious, Sam and Cat, Henry Danger, and Danger Force. Now, of those, I am told that Henry Danger isn't that bad, and from what little I've seen, it's not the worst, but I'm most certain that Sam and Cat was horrible, as I was around to witness that dumpster fire, but Victorious wasn't bad. However, it definitely followed in the downward trending line of Dan Snyder's live-action works. So this tells me that there is a high possibility that they will take the comedic core of Fairly Oddparents and try to run it through the Nickelodeon live-action comedy filter, which historically hasn't been great, and I feel like the type of writing that it has with most Nickelodeon live-action stuff, at least nowadays, or at least for the last decade, it really throws aside strong characters for just making joke after joke, and given this show, you have a wide selection of characters to make jokes with, but if it's not tied to anything, then the whole show will just fall apart. So far, it'll be on Paramount Plus, and it'll be another revival alongside iCarly, Rugrats, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Dora the Explorer, and then obviously SpongeBob. And I don't mind Nickelodeon rebooting things. I know a lot of people have been retweeting that all of these big companies shouldn't be trekking out old ideas and should be embracing the new and now, and that's a whole video of itself. However, my stance on it, both as a lover of new shows like Kid Cosmic, Elliot from Earth, and Glitch Tex, I wouldn't mind having somewhat of a ratio between the old and the new. Something like 70-30 or 80-20 of mostly new stuff, but then that 20 or 30% being, doing cool things with older projects, allowing for new things to blossom and for a generation to have their own things, but at the same time letting old things develop that nostalgic want so that when you do bring them back, it's properly timed.
This isn't what it looks like?
I understand the potential and the need for making sure that new stories come out from different voices, but at the same time, I also understand the emotional and financial impact that rebooting an old property can have. Now here's where things just become fantastic. I'm gonna read it just as it is, so there is no paraphrasing in my words here. Although this new iteration is expected to follow the same general plot as the original animated show, still being set in the iconic Dimsdale location for instance, it's still expected to spice up the lore by adding in new characters while also changing the origins of existing ones in order to keep the series fresh for both new and older audiences. It is currently unknown as to how much this reboot will deviate from the beloved Fairly Oddparents that everyone has come to know, or if the creators will even acknowledge the previous live-action films that starred Drake Bell as Timmy Turner. Now, this is where the bulk of this video is going to take place because there's a lot of things within this article that aren't clear now that I'm assuming would be clearer later. Although this new iteration is expected to follow the same general plot as the animated show, still being set in an iconic Dimsdale location for instance, pause right there. I'm going to assume that when they mean plot, they mean like the general synopsis or idea, in which Timmy alongside his fairy godparents balance a miserable kid life with a childhood shaping fairy life, and the misadventures that fall in between. However, either this could be me looking into it, or a reveal of something interesting to come, because if they mean plot in a traditional sense, the sequence of events where each affects the next one through the principle of cause and effect, that makes no sense to me here. Fairly Oddparents definitely exists within a time frame, obviously, like Cosmo and Wanda had godchildren before Timmy, and as we saw in Channel Chasers, there is a future with Timmy. However, it's not linear. This whole show is episodic. Even things that you would think are pivotal moments, such as the time in which Timmy gets his godparents or when Poof comes around, they aren't portrayed in a way in which you can see the direct events leading up to it or what effect it made in the episode after in the way that you could with an Owl House or Steven Universe or Avatar. And my thought on this is that it'll be episodic. However, as we see later in the article, they plan to add characters, and I'd imagine if you're already behind the idea of adding characters, you might be behind the idea of changing up the lore for this retelling of a show that only really ended about 4 years ago. However, if you're expecting me to be up in arms about this show adding in new characters, I'd say, where were you over a decade ago when Poof was added? That was February 2008. It's been 10 years of seeing all of these new additions basically add nothing to the main cast other than a singular talking point. Now there's a baby, so we can do baby-centric plots now. Now there's a dog, so we can do dog-centric plots now. Now there's a demon hellspawn, so now we can destroy the show and no one will be confused as to why. The article doesn't say if Chloe's going to be added at any point, really nothing about any of the characters in particular, but I don't even really care because once you add in live action, Butch Hartman, and the showrunner that was a part of live action shows, I don't really care much for whatever is coming of this. I know what I'm getting, and I'm not going to be naive about that, and look stupid in hindsight for being optimistic about this. I guess the only thing I am curious about is how they plan to do the special effects. We've seen a bit of it in the live action movies already, but given that those were movies and this is supposed to be a show, and a show for streaming nonetheless, it's not like we know of the budget. It's definitely going to be different, and they can easily skimp out on one of the core fundamentals of the show. However, I will say I don't like how Nickelodeon wants us to remember the history and not at the same time, given that this is one of my top favorite Nicktoons, alongside SpongeBob and Robot and Monster, and of these three, we already have a show where they're blatantly disregarding history for the new retelling or re-showing of something I've seen for, I guess, a long time at this point. But I understand, there's a new audience out there and you want to make sure that they enjoy the Nickelodeon brand of entertainment. I just wish you didn't have to drag down something amazing in order to do so. But that's just my thoughts on the matter. If you feel any different or maybe you feel the same, let me know in the comments down below or in the Reddit thread, alphaj.show/Reddit. I'm going to be over there a lot. I really do want to build it over the summer. And in fact, this is going to be posted over there. All future videos are going to be posted on the Reddit immediately, as well as the Discord of it coming out. Let me know what you think anywhere that I am at. Until then, thank you so much for your time. Take care. Alpha out.